some of the things that we have to consider. I'm having like how many things to consider? Let me see. Let me confirm. I'm having 5 things to consider when analyzing for a false market. The first thing is you have to evaluate the team itself. When I talk about the team, it's about the form of the team, the players of the team, the history of the team. Which is this team that we are talking about? Let me give you an example. When we are having a match between let me take a match between Real Madrid and Osasuna. That's a match that you expect many fouls, because you see, Real Madrid is the favorite here and Osasuna is a little bit lower than Real Madrid. But then what happens is that Osasuna always tries to defend goals, you see. So when most of the goals are being defended, the results of that is always many corners and many fouls. Because how do fouls come about? Fouls come about when either one team is attacking too continuously and the other team is trying to defend a goal, or the other team is trying to defend and protect the draw that is going on, and when the other team is having few targets, but then the game is contained in the middle. I don't know if you have understood that. So that's how the fouls come about. Another thing is that you have to study the current form and performances of a team. A better team always is likely to be causing more fouls on the other end, you know. So it's not purely that way, because another thing can come. A good example, a team like Manchester City can come and you'll be expecting, yes, Manchester City to be making many attacks on the other end, but most of those attacks might be converted into goals, and once they are converted into goals, now the other team will resolve into, or they'll be playing out of hopelessness, or the Manchester City will resolve like playing a neutral game. And when a neutral game is being played, then we expect less fouls, because that's like a clean game. But if Manchester City, they are really dedicated to winning that match, but then the other team, that is the underdog, is defending the goal very well, then trust me, there are going to be many fouls, because more attacks, more fouls, more tackles, and that's how the fouls come about. So those are the things that you have to consider. What is the current form of a team? Has this team been losing? Has this team been winning? Has this team been drawing? What is the current state of the players? What is the performances of the players? Which type of players are in the pitch? Because if I take an example, any moment you see a guy like Martinez from Manchester United being on the pitch, you expect some 2-3 fouls from him, you see. So it's that way. There are those players who when you see on the pitch, you know that this guy is not going to get out of the game either without a yellow card or even a red card, or this guy is not going to get out of the pitch without having created like 3 or 4 fouls. So you have to consider who are the players on the pitch, okay? Because let me give you an example. When you watch a match like the UEFA Champions League matches, especially the quarters, the semis, and the finals, they have very few fouls. Why? It's not because the teams are not strong. The two teams are strong, but then they are almost of the equal magnitude. They almost have the same power. And another thing is that the teams play with a lot of keenness, because there's always a second leg, there's always a first leg. A yellow card during that match means a lot to another team. So they play a clean game. So those are the things that you have to consider. Which kind of league are we talking about? What kind of the form are they in? What kind of thing are they fighting for? Which players are in the pitch? Very important things. So those are the things that you have to consider. And another thing is the team statistics. When I talk about the team statistics, it's especially the possession issues, because a team that possesses the match more, or a team that possesses the match more, is likely to have less yellow cards. It is very simple that way, because the underdogs always try to infringe more so that they can gain the ball, and they always try to infringe more so that they can gain and all they maintain the score. Okay, so it is not always that way, but then most of the times a team with higher possession ability is a team that is likely to experience less fouls considering the other. So when I talk about that technically, I'm trying to reflect that there's an option of betting which team is going to win in terms of having many fouls. It's always the other team on the other end, not the team with the higher possession. Okay. Yes. So another thing that you have to consider when we talk about is the history or the statistics of the yellow cards and the red cards. That's another thing that you have to look about and to check out, so that at the end of the day you have to decide that if this team has many yellow cards and red cards during their matches, that we expect many fouls from those teams. Okay, an example that I can take is which team? Let me take a team like I'm going to take a team like Sevilla from Italy. When you watch a match of Sevilla, let me just do even Real Betis. When you watch those two teams, most of them, they have many fouls, not because they attack, okay, the matches, not the teams themselves, but then the matches, not because they are the best teams in the world, but because they have a high ability of attacking and defending. So the most of the time they result into fouls. It is simple as that. Another thing that we have to consider now, let us check the thing too that we have to consider when taking the false market as your option for betting. So folks, the second factor that you have to factor in when you're analyzing or when you're trying to find out the number of fouls or the market that you're going to go with, be it the 1x2 for the fouls, be it the handicap for the fouls, be it that you want to go for the individual number of fouls created by a team, it's first going to the after you have done the analysis for the average odds, the minimum odds, not odds per se, but then the average fouls, the minimum fouls and the maximum fouls committed by a given team, then now you can come and consider the odds of the amount that you have come up with. Let's say, for example, you are taking two teams. Let me take Real Madrid and playing against Cadiz. When you've analyzed the total number of fouls between the two teams when they meet, especially for Cadiz being the underdog and Real Madrid being the favorite here, you have come to a conclusion that the average of the number of fouls that were committed in the matches were 21. Let's say the minimum was 18 and the maximum was 29, or the maximum was 30. So it means that first you go to the match and then you consider what odd is 18 over 18 fouls having, what odd is over 25 fouls adding, what is the total odds over 28, which is the maximum in our case, having. So after you have come to that, now you consider the average between, for example, let's say it's 22 fouls. What is the odd that average is having the 22 fouls? So here's the catch. The catch is that your average should be lying where there is an odd of 1.2 to 1.45 or 1.5. When the odd is past 1.5, then you are entering a risk zone. Very simple. If your minimum was 18, obviously the 18 will be having very minimum odds around 1.0 something or 1.1. Just leave it, because some of the times it's not worth to take a risk that is not worth it. The reward on investment, or the risk reward ratio, should be of sufficient magnitude so that even if you lose, you're like, yeah, I lost, but then even if I lost to a better odd. You can't lose to 1.06 odds, for example. So find that and then find that range, which range is having an odd of 1.2 to 1.45. That's the place to bank on. So avoid odds of 2, avoid odds on of 1.8, and if you want to place on them when it comes to the false market, then place on them as separate matches. Another factor that you have to consider is the leagues, the type of leagues. Trust me, it looks tougher than you think. It looks very critical than you think. For example, if I tell you a league like the England Premier League, you might be thinking that most of the matches in England Premier League, being a best competitive league that you know, it's going to have many fouls. But then, to your surprise, is that many of the matches in the England Premier League, most of the fouls, they actually end when they are less than 20, and that's something that you don't want to bank on. You see, so you have to consider some leagues like the ones I'm going to call. Let me give you an example. The Italy Serie A, the Spain La Liga, and other leagues like the EPL, some of the matches, and the Bundesliga. Those are leagues that always have many fouls, especially the La Liga matches and the Serie A matches. This is because most of the time you consider The magnitude of the match and the type of the referee. Okay, the type of the referee is the next factor to consider. And the leagues to avoid Chinese leagues, avoid Iceland leagues, avoid some of the EPL matches leagues, avoid Denmark, and avoid other leagues like the ones from Netherlands. Especially when the two teams that are playing the matches, they're almost of the same magnitude. And a league also to run away from is a league like the Belgium Jubilee Brody. Just run from that league and avoid it. So the next factor that you have to consider is the referee and their tendencies. So here's what to do. The names of the referees are given like 10 or 7 days prior to the match. Do your assignment very well. Money needs you to do the assignment, because at the end of the day, it doesn't come so easy. If it was so easy, everybody could be doing it. So do your research very well and sit down and reflect on what you want. In this case, you want the details of the number of yellow cards, the number of red cards per game that this referee issues, and the number of fouls that the referee officiates during the match. Another thing is you consider where they come from. Italian referees and other Spanish referees and other Eastern Europe referees, most of them, they are relentless, and they are these people, the no-nonsense guys, who any moment you make a unfair tackle, the guy fouls you. But then come to England, most of the referees there, they are very friendly. Most of the time they just wave, and the play goes on. And do you know what that does to a sports bettor? It makes you to lose. So consider the leagues and consider the referees. They are very important. Last but not least, it's the weather condition. Now this is sweet for those people who do live betting. Live betting, actually, I love it for 3 reasons. One, you are able to check your mistakes earlier. Second, you are able to see and observe how the match is going to end. And third one, it makes you maximum profit. So any moment you enter into a match and then you start 5 minutes into the match, you see that the location or the place where the match is being played, it's raining. Go back to your odds and adjust on the bets, because you know what? God has visited you. That's a good sign that you're going to bank some good wins. Because with more rain or with more diverse weather conditions comes impulses that are created by players. Another thing is that when there's much rain, the ball won't be moving at the same speed as expected by the players. It either will be slowed down or it will be more faster. And any moment when a player is receiving a pass, for example, and the match has not reached the player, then it's upon the player now to go after the ball. And they don't always go like they are following a clean game. They do bad tackles, and when bad tackles happen, that's now our banger. That's what we always pray for. So this is a good market, a very creative market to work on, and those are the 5 things to consider when you are analyzing.